Welcome to the Lessons from the Animals series. This is the first episode in the series, and the series is a Chinese martial arts series. So it's going over Chinese martial arts, particularly looking at different animal styles to see what we can learn from the animals that they were inspired by. So this is not to say this is a animal style series, but it's learning what we can from the animal systems and from the animals themselves. So we can apply these principles that we are going to learn in this series to any martial art, whether you practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Baguazhang, or Xingyiquan, or any type of martial art. We can apply those principles into our daily practice. So back in the day, right, a lot of Chinese martial arts were inspired by these animals, and either they made like animal systems themselves, like tiger boxing or snake boxing or mantis boxing, and they made like these what we call mimicry styles, or there's styles like Xinyiliuhe or Baguazhang that have animals flavoring to it, but they're not necessarily an animal system, but it's more about the spirit behind the movements that guides the practice. And when we hear about the stories about inventing these kind of styles, we often hear things like the master was observing an animal in motion, so they were observing the tiger hunting their prey, or they were observing the crane fighting a snake, right? And we hear these stories and we think like, oh, that's really nice. But if you think about what it's actually doing is learning how to get back to our roots. Because today in modern society, we are very far removed from our survival instincts in the days of old, or very far removed from the animal survival instincts. But we still have those instincts, it's just buried under a lot of, non-use. So in observing animals, we actually learn how to re-implement our old survival instincts and to also learn from the animals themselves. So one animal might be very graceful and soft and agile. We can learn how to be more like that, right? We can apply that to our practice itself. So that's kind of what this series is going for. So whether or not you practice an animal style per se or another style entirely, you can still learn from this and apply it to your practice. So without further ado, let's get on to the meat of today's lesson. We're going to be looking at tigers and tiger boxing, and the particular principle we're going to be looking at is in softness and in the usage of the torso. So in plain words, right, the torso is used because we want to generate more force, and the softness is used because we want to both be agile, quick, changeable, movable, as well as to allow the force to take place. And why it's inspired by the tiger, because if you watch a tiger or any kind of cat, if you have a cat at home, you can watch this in them. It's just a smaller tiger, right? You can see that whenever they're getting ready to pounce on something, they won't tighten up, but instead they'll soften and lower to the ground, and they'll kind of become spring-like and ready. And then they'll leap, and they'll leap with their torsos first, right? Their spine goes, and then everything follows behind it, and they pin their prey with their torso behind their paw, right? So the idea is in learning to use the spine, right? So if you're watching a tiger or a cat in motion, you might see their spine moving and engaging in this kind of crawling fashion, right? So learning how to engage the spine in this way, we can get more power into our movements. And then learning to be soft allows our body to be more flexible, more agile, as well as to allow power transfer to take place. Because the way to have power in martial arts, or anything really, is learning how to be a sort of conduit for kinetic energy. Because the idea, right, if I want to get power out to my hand, it needs to come from somewhere. So I could say, push the ground with my back foot and let that turn my body, and then let that extend my punch. So in that case, right, I push the ground, that kinetic energy hits the ground, and then because I can't push the ground downwards, it's going to push back up through laws of physics. And then that kinetic energy is going to rebound back upwards and out through my fist. So in that way, I become a conduit sort of thing for this kinetic energy to take place. But this couldn't really take place if I was being super tense, right? If I'm super tense, it will both hinder my movement, so I'll become less agile, I'll become more like a brick, right? And I won't be able to properly adjust my technique as I'm going about it. And it'll also put brakes on my power. So for example, right, if I tense my bicep when I punch, bicep is what does retraction of the arm, while the tricep extends the arm. So if I tense my bicep, I'm essentially punching with the brakes on. So I'm hindering my own power, I'm hindering the kinetic energy transfer. So I need to soften my body so that I don't tense these muscles that will work counter-antithesis to the movement that I'm trying to do. So this softness is very important. And then also learning to be agile, be flowing in motion, right? So all of this together, we learn how to engage the torso to get more of the muscularity involved in the motion, but not in a way that's going to hinder the motion through stiffness. So we learn to engage the spine, we learn to engage the core, and then be soft so we can change and have more power in our movements, no matter what our style might be, whether in Baguazhang or Xingyiquan or tiger style itself. So I need to be agile and I need to be powerful, because when the tiger leaps on you, right, it's not just gonna put its paw on you and have the strength of its arm, it's just going to put its entire body weight on you and then it'll eat you, right? And it's not going to do it through tension. It's not going to hold you down with tension. It's going to soften and put that body weight down on you. Much in the same way that if you hold a baby when it's awake versus when it's asleep. When it's asleep, we perceive it as a lot heavier because it's not holding up its body weight. It just fully relaxes in your arms. In that same way, the tiger relaxes and lets all of that weight pin you down so that you can't get up, right? Because that's a lot of tiger, that's a lot of cat butt going behind that movement. So we want to learn from this. We want to learn from being able to use our body weight and our torso efficiently, and not to stiffen the body, but to become soft like the tiger. If you have a cat at home, again, if you pick them up, right, they won't brick but instead they'll kind of, like as you pick up their torso, they're just kind of, right? Very soft, but you feel they're a lot heavier than they look, right? Because of that softness. It's because they're not tensing their body, not trying to hold themselves up. And you can just touch them and you can feel the softness of their body. They're never super tense. So you can learn even in the comfort of your own home and observe. So that is the first episode of the Lessons from the Animal series going over the tiger boxing. Thank you very much. See you in the next episode.